Good morning and welcome to the UCEA Executive Committee interview webinar. This is Daniel Moragas, Graduate Research Assistant at UCEA and doctoral student at University of Virginia. I am here today to interview Dr. Carol Mullen as part of her candidacy for the UCEA presidency. Today, listeners will be hearing from Dr. Mullen, professor at Virginia Tech University. Dr. Mullen's equity-focused research interests include the social sciences, educational leadership, curriculum studies, and international education. She specializes in mentoring theory and practice, creativity and innovation in learning, and values-oriented pedagogies for developing professionals and systems. Welcome, Dr. Mullen.
Hello, Daniel.
Good morning. Let's get to our first question. Please tell us about your background and your work as it relates to UCEA's mission and goals.
I'd be happy to. Hello, UCEA institutions and plenum representatives. I'm a tenured full professor of educational leadership at Virginia Tech, located in Blacksburg, Virginia. Along with two younger siblings, I was born in Halifax, Nova Scotia. We were raised in poverty in a single-parent home. The only one in the family to go to college, I earned a PhD from the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education of the University of Toronto. This year, my alma mater recognized me with the Excellence, Leaders, and Legends Award. While earning my degree, I was a principal investigator of a grant from a Canadian federal agency to conduct educational research dealing with the high dropout rate in maximum security prisons. Later, in the United States, I examined the same sociological phenomenon. In Canada, I also taught communications courses in colleges to populations out of work seeking the credentials to secure jobs and careers. From these teaching experiences, I came to realize the importance of education and communication for lifting disenfranchised populations. And I try to reflect this awareness in my interpersonal style and social justice work. A dual citizen of the US and Canada, I immigrated from Toronto to the US 25 years ago. My first convention was in 1999. UCA has been my academic home for 21 years. I've been at leading doctoral intensive research universities in different states. I served as director of the School of Education and associate dean at Virginia Tech, and I was a department chair at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. With almost $5 million awarded in grants, my external funding SPI includes Fulbright scholarships and an Impact 5 grant. A twice awarded US Fulbright scholar, my Fulbrights occurred in China and Canada with an extension project in Australia just last year. I've been investigating critical global policy issues in education with the United States at the forefront of my international explorations. My new book, called Revealing Creativity, tells the research story of the creativity deficit within educational settings, stemming from the effects of high stakes on Indigenous and other vulnerable populations. My Handbook of Social Justice Interventions in Education features research-supported implementations of justice by African American, Hispanic, Indigenous, and other human rights advocates from UCEA and around the world, calling for justice and support of Black Lives Matters. My quality programming as a cohort coordinator and course instructor of policy, governance, methods, and curriculum leadership rely on systematic inquiry, which reflect UCA's values of rigor and relevance with respect to the work we do in the educational leadership field. From UCA, I was honored with the J.D. Scribner Mentoring Award and the Living Legend Award from the International Council of Professors of Educational Leadership, for which I served as president. Also, I've received the Distinguished Faculty Achievement Award for service to the profession from AERA's LTELSIG and the EAQ Service Award for Outstanding Editorial Board Service. Virginia Tech has similarly recognized my performance with the Alumni Award for Excellence in Research, a National Distinction Pool Award, the Excellence in Research and Creativity Scholarship Award, and grants. My publications are justice-oriented, include 182 peer-reviewed journal articles and book chapters, 16 guest-edited journal issues, and 27 books, with other book titles like Creativity Under Duress in Education and Education Policy Perils. I appreciate your good question, Daniel.
Thank you. Discuss your scholarship, research projects, teaching, and or service that can inform the work of UCEA, particularly the work of the Executive Committee?
Sure. My activities over 2 decades with UCEA include governance roles, with 2 years spent on the Executive Committee and 6 years on the plenum. For 8 years, I served on UCEA's EAQ and JRLE editorial boards. I was editor of the Mentoring and Tutoring Journal also for 8 years. My UCA activities encompass extensive service, intensive mentoring, prolific presentations, research publications, and focused networking. I contribute to the EC by tapping into my body of knowledge to help inform our work and volunteering for various work-related tasks. My abundance of research, editorial, and collaborative experience can further enrich the EC and UCEA. For example, because I'm immersed in our stellar research culture, I've been able to develop diverse networks that engage in critical conversations, publish the results, and have impact. And I'm attuned to UCA's Quality Leadership Matters identity with respect to educational leadership programming, having published on diversity, curriculum ethics, PSEL standards, and programs in ways that elucidate UCA's culture and values. Beyond improvements in programming and the need for effective educational leadership to respond to the new context of public education that supports achievement, educational justice must be on the table. Some of my research looks at Indigenous justice, nationally and globally, and expresses my strong allyship in articles and books. Besides revealing creativity mentioned earlier, the other recent book is titled Canadian Indigenous Literature and Art, Decolonizing Education, Culture, and Society. Decolonization of education has informed UCA conventions of late through the good work of the EC and Indigenous proponents. My scholarship offers insight and adds value to the UCA culture through these international diversity projects. Turning to organizational justice, the EC is also intent on further diversifying UCA's institutional membership, which I publicly expressed 5 years ago. In the UCA Review, a 2015 article of mine addressing organizational capacity building, I looked at embracing minority serving institutions by design. And by design, I'm meaning through a vision of inclusion and intentional planning. It's an approach I described for including more HBCUs and HSIs in UCEA's governance structure and representing geographical areas of the nation outside our current range. Mentoring justice also permeates the good work for which UCA has long been known through the Barbara Jackson Scholars Network, Clark Seminar, Graduate Student Council, and so forth. My knowledge of effective social justice mentoring and commitment to it throughout my career can continue to enrich our organization. When I reached out to J.D. Scribner mentoring awardees about doing a research article on their groundbreaking mentoring work, some said that this was the first time they'd been approached to write about their academic mentorships. So in my mind, this confirmed the need to document mentoring justice efforts. So recently, Mentoring and Tutoring published the result, which features participating Scribner awardees and their beneficiaries in my guest edited legacy issue titled Dynamic Mentoring Groups, Programs, and Structures. This special project, a labor of love, has seen the light of day. Other democratizing mentorship initiatives can also be documented, thereby affording UCA more of the visibility it deserves. Thanks, Daniel, for your question.
Thank you, Dr. Mullen. Having served for 2 years on the Executive Committee, tell us about that experience and how that has prepared you for the UCEA presidency.
Well, that's right. So on the EC, I'm involved in important transformative work alongside my talented peers. I appreciate the EC's soulfulness, and we work closely with the new executive director. We discuss racial justice and equity issues relative to UCA's role to which I contribute. A subcommittee I'm on is drafting policy that speaks to gender-free harassment and discrimination. I do enjoy being engaged in the work of formulating new UCA statements and policies that speak to the core of who we are and what we are becoming. Also, I've conducted 2 institutional membership site visits. The first is UTRGV, a HSI in Texas that has joined us as a full institutional membership institution. The site visit I just finished with EC and partners on the EC is currently in final deliberations, for which we conducted UCEA's very first virtual site visit. I vocalized support for doing the visit remotely using technology out of necessity given the pandemic. Being agile and adapting customary practices seems essential for the UCEA of today and tomorrow. And I should mention that I've also been at the other end of the initiating institution, where I've had the opportunity to collaboratively lead site visits at Virginia Tech and UNCG. Gaining firsthand knowledge of governance by being on both sides of this review process has afforded me a baseline for what to expect and how to best enact, even improve the experience for our leadership colleagues while maintaining standards of excellence. Our virtual convention this year is testimony to the spirit of carrying on and innovating as we go. The years spent on the plenum have also helped prepare me for the UCEA presidency, just like my service as a faculty member in the Barbara Jackson Scholars Network, William Boyd National Educational Politics Workshop, and Researcher Development Program. And I've chaired the Scribner Mentoring Award and William Davis Award selection committees and provided service to AERA's Early Career Scholar Mentoring Seminar and LTEL COTCAMP Dissertation Award Committee. I believe that UCEA presidents should have a lot of firsthand exposure to our highly complex, multifaceted, changing organization. As such, years of quality, mindful service seem essential for doing well in this important role. Thank you, Daniel.
Dr. Mullen, now our final question. Share the reasons why you have chosen to run for UCEA president and your vision for the future of UCEA.
Okay, I'd be happy to. About my reasons for running for UCEA president, as someone who is deeply committed to UCEA, I'm investing in its promising future. Making good use of my insights and knowledge about UCEA and the profession can help our organization move to the next level. Our challenge, as I see it, is to modernize who we are and what we stand for in the fight for justice, for which systemic inequities must be uprooted. This direction surpasses upholding quality programming and school improvement. Because I've been president of a national organization in educational leadership and observed UCEA presidents and president-elects in action, I understand the presidency from different perspectives. Also, it would be good to capitalize on the nimbleness of our organization by revitalizing our creeds, policies, and initiatives and looking to new innovations while staying attuned to what can be learned from the social unrest of this country. I persevere in times of turmoil, and this quality, combined with my social justice leadership frameworks and actions, work ethic, and robust networks, could be beneficial for UCEA's renewal. My 8 years of governance work and all the service I love to do on behalf of our organization offers a baseline from which I can work productively and collegially as president with the EC. As a people person, I am energized by the EC, Plenum, and UCEA members, and I feel moved by our community's care and candor. Collegial nudges by UCEA faculty to consider the presidency of our organization occur periodically while I've been on the EC. I would love to see UCEA emerge as an even stronger, more inclusive organization and powerful voice of social and racial justice in this defining moment in our history. And so now, regarding my vision for the future of UCEA, I have some different ideas. One idea is to advance organizational capacity building to promote minority serving institutions. To diversify UCEA's institutional membership, we can reach out to include tribal colleges and universities, of which there are presently 32 fully accredited TCUs in the United States with interest in tribal and broader Native American educational leadership. I am truly excited about this possibility. I would also love to see greater institutional representation from HBCUs and HSIs. Broadening the diversity of what our organization has to offer would be valuable in breaking down racial and geographic inequities to higher education could be especially impactful. In turn, we have a lot to offer newcomer institutions. A related idea is to attract international representation of members by tapping into the potential interest that some of us may be encountering in our international research and travels. While UCA does have some history around this, viable connections that are sustained could be worth pursuing. We can revisit the International Summit to further energize it. As a Fulbright alumnus, I can imagine including more interested Fulbright scholars and prospective scholars in the summit. We can forge connections with the U.S. Department of State's Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board. A second idea is to create new mission, ethics, and value statements so that these explicate issues of dignity and conduct, racial and gender equity, and other matters, something that the EC takes very seriously. It only makes sense to reflect the new world in which we have found ourselves and intentionally take a stand on behalf of the constituencies we represent and generations to come. A third idea is to meaningfully engage the plenum as a governance body beyond the convention. We can also foster communication bridges among the plenum, EC, and membership so that ideas from members who are not on the plenum can be heard. A fourth idea is to inspire greater involvement by graduate students and more of them in the UCA convention and programs. So faculty-led group presentations on conference themes can be an added pathway to encourage more faculty to model proposal writing and bring their students, alumni, and practitioner colleagues to conventions. And considering that the professoriate is becoming increasingly practitioner-led, special offerings could welcome clinical faculty and professors of practice so that they can find their place and have influence. The plenum reflects this rapidly growing trend with clinical representatives. However, their role in policy, practice, and governance can be amplified. A fifth idea around which there has been interest for a long time is to co-sponsor conventions or at least program activities with other organizations. Yearly, we do this with AERA. I am among those of us who have solid connections with other organizations. This scenario could generate a win-win situation while attracting to UCA new faculty and students from sister disciplines of educational leadership, like higher education, curriculum studies, and cultural foundations. As someone who deeply cares about UCA and its future, if selected as your president, I will work to turn the unprecedented changes of the day into opportunities for growth and progress so our organization can shine more brightly as a voice for justice. Daniel, I wish you and our listeners good health and safety and your families. Thanks all for staying the course of this interview. And thank you, Daniel, for organizing it.
Well, thank you for your time and very thoughtful responses, Dr. Mullen. This interview will be made available to UCEA institutions and the plenum representatives prior to the UCEA's annual convention. Thank you again and have a great day.